Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
All right, faithful, before we get into this, let me just say, I need your help getting this channel to where it deserves to be, so if you're new here, smash that subscribe button right now because trust me, you are not going to want to miss what's coming. Training camp is officially just a couple of short weeks away, and ESPN decided this was the perfect moment to drop one of the most detailed, most comprehensive season previews you'll find anywhere on the internet. They went through all 32 teams, projected the starting lineup for every single one, and broke down each roster's biggest strength, biggest weakness, and biggest X factor. And yes, they even ranked every roster in football from top to bottom. So today, we are going through this thing position by position, San Francisco style. And I promise you there are a few details buried in here that are going to have this entire fan base talking. Let's get into it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off right away, because this is the number everybody's already arguing about. ESPN ranked the San Francisco 49ers as the 11th best roster in the entire National Football League heading into this season. 11th. Now, is that a disaster? No. Is it an insult? Depends who you ask. But for a fan base that watched this team fight through absolute devastation last year and still make a run at the postseason, 11th probably doesn't feel like the respect this roster has earned. For context, so you know exactly where San Francisco sits relative to the rest of the pack, the Rams landed at number 1 overall, with the Eagles sitting right behind them at number 2. So the 49ers find themselves outside that true elite tier, at least on paper, at least according to ESPN's evaluators. And where's that 11th place ranking actually coming from? A big piece of it comes down to age. Plain and simple. Nobody's denying this roster has real talent and legitimate star power scattered up and down the depth chart. But this is also genuinely one of the older rosters in the entire league, and when you stack that age concern on top of a fairly extensive injury history across several of this team's most important contributors, it starts to make a little more sense why outside evaluators are holding back some of their confidence heading into the year. All right, let's actually get into the meat of this thing, because there is a lot to break down here, position group by position group. We start at quarterback, and this one is not complicated. Brock Purdy is the unquestioned starter, and he's backed up by a genuinely strong QB2 option, giving San Francisco what ESPN itself called one of the more well-rounded quarterback rooms in the entire league. And get this, ESPN actually named quarterback as this team's single biggest overall strength on the whole roster. The logic here is pretty straightforward. Purdy's continued strong, consistent play, combined with his backup stepping up and performing admirably in relief duty last season, was enough on its own to push this entire position group to the very top of San Francisco's list of strengths. Now look, yes, durability has been the elephant in the room throughout Purdy's career. Nobody's pretending otherwise. But when this man is actually healthy and on the field, his efficiency numbers have remained absolutely elite. Across his 3 seasons as a starter, he has finished ranked 1st, 7th, and most recently 2nd in the entire league in total QBR. Let that sink in for a second. Top 2 in the league in one of the most respected quarterback efficiency metrics that exists. And he did it last season while throwing 20 touchdown passes in just 9 games. 20 touchdowns, 9 games. That is a pace matched by almost nobody else in professional football, and he produced it while dealing with a beat-up, injury-riddled receiver room around him the entire time. So say whatever you want about the doubters still out there. This is a quarterback who shows up and produces at an elite level no matter what chaos is swirling around him. At running back, it's Christian McCaffrey anchoring the backfield, and the man led the entire league in total touches last season. That workload is admittedly a little bit nerve-wracking when you consider he's now entering his age 30 season, and it raises a genuinely fascinating question mark about who actually ends up as his true backup. Is it the somewhat surprising third-round rookie San Francisco selected this past draft? Or does another young ball carrier who's already flashed real promise end up stealing that role? That is a legitimate battle worth watching closely all throughout training camp. And hey, don't sleep on the fullback spot either, a player who almost never shows up prominently in a box score, but who quietly does an enormous amount of unheralded work behind the scenes that helps this entire offensive machine actually function at the level it does. Now here, faithful, is where things get genuinely, deliciously uncertain, the wide receiver room. Mike Evans projects as the clear WR1 heading into the season, and by pretty much every account out there. He is an outstanding scheme fit for exactly what this offense wants to do. Ricky Pearsall slots in as WR2, and when the man is healthy, he is a legitimate difference maker on the field. But when healthy continues to be the exact same nagging, persistent question mark that has followed him throughout his young career so far. Beyond those top two spots, though, the depth chart is basically the Wild West. There is a real, genuine chance that whoever is presumed to be the WR3 right now doesn't actually hold on to that job by the time Week 1 rolls around, with several other names lurking in the shadows who could easily steal that role away, including a couple of speedy slot options who absolutely should not be overlooked heading into camp. And then there's George Kittle at tight end, still working his way back from that torn Achilles suffered all the way back in January. But here's the encouraging update. By all accounts coming out of this summer's tight end-focused training event, he's been moving well and trending in a genuinely positive direction toward a potential Week 1 return. Now let's talk about the X factor. Because ESPN didn't hesitate for a second on this one, they tabbed Mike Evans as the single biggest X factor on the entire San Francisco roster, and honestly, it's easy to understand exactly why. He signed a below-market contract that made him what most analysts are calling an easy, low-risk addition for this front office. But make no mistake, there is real, tangible risk baked directly into this signing. He will be 33 years old by the time the season actually kicks off. He played in just 8 games last season. And his overall open score rating, a metric measured on a 0 to 99 scale that tracks a receiver's ability to separate from coverage, dropped to a below-average mark last year. A steep fall after he posted an elite score the year before that. If Evans doesn't perform the way San Francisco is hoping and expecting him to, this offense becomes heavily, dangerously reliant on a receiver core that is already riddled with its own separate injury question marks. It is the absolute textbook definition of a high-reward, real-risk proposition. And how it plays out this season could genuinely swing this entire offense's ceiling one way or the other. Massive storyline to track. ESPN also flagged one more name worth watching outside the presumed starting lineup, second-round rookie wide receiver out of Ole Miss. He stands 6'2", runs in the low 4.4s, brings an impressive catch radius, reliable hands, and real physicality as a blocker to boot. And here's an interesting wrinkle that ties directly back into that yak concern we need to talk about this offense. Under this exact coaching staff used to absolutely dominate the league in yards after the catch. Used to. But last season, Pearsall finished dead last in the entire league in yards after catch relative to expectation, with Evans finishing right behind him in that same ugly category. So the real question heading into 2026 becomes, where exactly are those explosive, yak-heavy plays actually going to come from this season? There's a real chance the answer ends up being this tall, fast rookie who will begin the year competing directly for slot snaps. It's a completely fair concern to raise for an offense that built its entire identity for years around exactly this kind of explosive after-the-catch production, and right now. This roster is a long way removed from the receiver rooms that used to define that identity in the first place. Up front along the offensive line, things remain anchored by a future Hall of Fame left tackle who is still playing at an extraordinarily high level despite the mileage. ESPN projects a newly added lineman to win the starting left guard job. Someone with plenty of starting experience in a very similar offensive system elsewhere in the league, though that spot is genuinely expected to be a real live training camp competition worth watching. The center and right guard spots look relatively settled, with the interior linemen at right guard entering a pivotal third season where real, tangible improvement is expected from the coaching staff. Right tackle rounds out the group as another long-tenured, dependable starter San Francisco can lean on. Now let's flip over to the defense, because this is genuinely where things get murkier. San Francisco continues to run its traditional scheme up front, and the interior defensive line features a genuinely fascinating training camp battle between two talented sophomore defenders, both excellent run-stuffers competing hard for real playing time. Alongside them sits a highly effective pass-rushing interior addition who was widely considered one of the most underrated free agent signings across the entire league this offseason. At the edge spots, both starters are currently working their way back from torn ACLs, which obviously brings some real, lingering concern into training camp. But the sheer collection of raw talent at that position remains undeniably impressive on paper, regardless of the current health question marks. And here's the part that's going to sting a little. ESPN identified the interior defensive line as San Francisco's single biggest overall weakness heading into this season, and unfortunately, the numbers actually back that concern up pretty hard. This defense finished dead last in the entire league in total sacks last season and near the very bottom in total pressures generated. Some genuine reinforcement did arrive this offseason through free agency. Along with a fourth-round rookie, the team just locked up on a multi-year deal. But the returning sophomore interior options still carry some real statistical red flags, including one player who posted one of the worst overall grades among all qualified defensive tackles league-wide last season. Analytically speaking, it's fair to say outside evaluators remain genuinely skeptical of this specific position group, even while acknowledging that the pieces do complement each other reasonably well on paper heading into camp. At linebacker, the question marks are almost entirely tied to one single word: availability. When both starting linebackers are healthy, and let's be honest, that's overwhelmingly a question about just one of them given the other's remarkable Iron Man durability throughout his entire career. This duo is genuinely one of the most feared linebacking tandems in all of professional football. But health has been the swing factor hanging over this pairing for years now, and there's simply no way to predict with any real confidence how many games they actually log together on the field this season. When healthy, though, this pairing strikes legitimate fear into opposing offenses, and it's worth revisiting exactly how dominant this defense looked before a devastating injury completely changed the trajectory of a previous Super Bowl appearance. That absence was deeply, deeply felt at the time, and it remains a sobering reminder of just how much this defense's true ceiling depends on both of these players actually staying on the field together. Down in the secondary, there's a genuinely underrated cornerback anchoring one side of the field, while a second-round pick entering a pivotal third season needs to bring far more week-to-week consistency after a mixed first 2 years in the league. Another corner projects as a legitimately strong option handling the slot and nickel role. But the safety position remains by far the single biggest, most glaring question mark on this entire roster. And here's an interesting wrinkle. While ESPN specifically pointed to the interior defensive line as this team's greatest overall weakness, there's a genuinely strong argument that safety actually deserves that dishonorable distinction instead. Given that San Francisco currently has a room full of strong safety-type players without one single, clear, established free safety to pair alongside them. Don't be remotely shocked if a trade addition at that exact position ends up becoming one of the more significant storylines to track as this season approaches. It's a void that feels too big to simply ignore heading into September. So there you have it, faithful, a complete top-to-bottom breakdown of exactly where this roster stands heading into training camp, straight from one of the most respected outlets in the entire business. Elite, top-tier quarterback play. A genuinely fascinating and completely unresolved receiver room. Real, legitimate questions up front along the defensive interior. And a safety spot that might be the quietest storyline of this entire offseason, but could very well end up being the most important one when the games actually start to count. So now it's your turn, Niner faithful. How many games do you honestly think this 49ers team wins in 2026? Do you agree with that 11th place overall ranking? Or does this roster deserve a whole lot more respect than that? Sound off down in the comments and let me know exactly where you stand, because I promise you I am reading every single one. And if you got something out of this breakdown today, do me a favor, smash that like button, drop your bold prediction down in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed here on 49ers Focus so you never miss a single update as we count down the days to training camp. There is a whole lot more coverage on the way. Let's go Niners. We'll see you in the next one.